This is Virgil Abloh's greatest student. He had the opportunity to be mentored by the late Virgil, who was the creative director of Louis Vuitton and the founder of Off-White, but that was 10 years ago. What is he up to now? How is his brand Hypland doing today?
I got a house in LA too, and I bought my mama's house, so shit.
How is he able to get all of these collaborations? What are the secrets of the industry Virgil taught him that changed everything?
Had it not been for the mentorship that I had from Virgil, I probably would not have the brand that I have right now.
In this video, we're gonna find out. Guys, I found the swollest clothing brand owner in the world right here.
Hey, honestly, I spar any clothing brand owner. Whether you box, do Muay Thai, or whatever, I got the hands for all y'all.
Can you show them what's on the wrist?
Nice little music edition, AP, you know what I'm saying?
So that's not even the regular APC, that's like a limited. Bro, straight to the room, guys. This is how you know you penthouse living. It goes straight to the room.
Nice little vibe, you know what I'm saying?
Wow. Every little kid that wants to start a clothing brand, they're fucking creaming in their pants.
This
right
is
now.
like the, what's that meme that you be seeing right now? It's like, this is the apartment looks like the dude that won't ship your order. But we ship your stuff.
Can you show us the like a quick tour?
Honestly, we just moved here, so it's a lot of stuff that's not really here. We just got this orange couch about a week ago. The rug that's on the floor, my uncle made him. He does a bunch of like custom like furniture and stuff like that for us. So you'll see this in the store. You'll see this in my mom's house. A bunch of different like Murakami prints. I bought all these during the pandemic. Akira movie poster. This is like super authentic. I got this from Japan a couple years ago. I live with my little brother, so in the corner you'll see like a bunch of like vinyl and stuff like that. This is like his little space. So all the calls dolls, the lights that we got from MoMA. Then the kitchen over here, nice little island.
This is where you be doing the strawberry matchas, huh?
Exactly. Honestly, we should make some matcha while we're here. Honestly, I'm not gonna lie.
Peep this. This is hard.
Bought that in China recently.
Oh,
$20.
$20?
Dead ass, yeah.
Yeah, that shit's fine.
This is my little brother's. Hey, look, I'm not an anti-bear brick guy, but I'm about to be 30, bro. I'm not putting that in my crib if I didn't live with my 22-year-old brother. So just FYI. But yeah, this is my little brother's room. You'll see he streams and stuff like that. He got a bunch of bear bricks. This is like capture his vibe. He's like a 22-year-old basketball player. He loves Travis Scott. So you see like the Reese's Puff cereal that I think he got in 2020. The cereal's still in the box. Yeah, so it's my little brother's room, and then my space over here.
This is where the magic goes down.
Damn! I'm clothes right now. It's big as hell. Yeah.
This shit's big as fuck.
Yeah. So here I stream. So I have like two setups. So I have like my computer setup, and then my like actual computer piece is like right here.
What kind of clothes do you? Are these colognes?
Yeah.
What kind of clothes do you wear?
Man, I don't know if I can leak the sauce.
Dude, you got like 30 of these bottles.
Clive Christian, bro. That's the real smell right there. That's not even a good one. You want to smell good cologne?
Yeah. You put me on right now.
Nah, these are two. This is my two favorite combination right here.
Oh, you mix them?
Yes.
These are good. If you guys want to know, get some taste.
No. We gatekeeping. Like I said, we just moved in here, so I'll be kind of just in this space a bunch.
You want to make a matcha while we do this?
Honestly, I'm very much down. You want to do that?
Yeah.
You want to do a strawberry matcha?
Whatever.
Yeah, let's do that.
All right, guys, this is Cooking with Jordan Bentley. How was it getting mentored by Virgil? I feel like that's like huge, no?
Honestly, dude, I say to this day, had it not been for the mentorship that I had from Virgil, I probably would not have the brand that I have right now, or the brand wouldn't be the size that it is. I was like 19 when I met him. He really reframed just like my thought process in relation to like one, running a business, but also just like the creative process. Before Hypland got into anime, we were doing like a little bit of everything. Like it was
everything, like army.
Exactly. Right? So you remember it's like military inspired. We did a bunch of just comic book design, did like world history stuff. And he really told me like, look, you got a bunch of ideas and you can have like 7 different brands, but you need to pick one. And the brands that are the biggest are usually specialized in one particular thing. So for Hypland, we are like the cool anime brand. Like what he was explaining at the time was like, you don't have to have the best designs. It's really about like what you do for the community, how you aid to it.
Essentially, less is more. I think a lot of kids out there, y'all trying to do so much with your brand, trying to be a fucking Olympic brand, a military brand, a this brand, and you can have all of these different interests. But ultimately what it boils down to is like, what is the one thing that your brand is known for, and what is the one community that it's attracting? Exactly. Less is more.
You said it so much more quicker than I did.
So we're cooking up a matcha right here.
Yes, we're cooking up matcha.
This is like the exotic matcha?
This is that green matcha. Good. Look, if your matcha's not green like the wrist, throw it in the trash.
Does it have good nose? Okay, it smells good. It smells good and earthy. Like if I'm a brand and I want to get a license with Yu-Gi-Oh, or I want to get a license with McDonald's, how do I go about doing that?
I mean, you go to Licensing Expo and you pretty much like pitch your concept for like what you have to, I guess like what you want to see for the brand. I think the biggest takeaway that anybody can have if they want to go to Licensing Expo is like think about the unique position your brand has and like how you can make their brand either cooler or more relevant in a social space. You got to think when you're working with McDonald's, no matter how many t-shirts you sell, you're not going to move a decimal on a McDonald's like spreadsheet.
They're selling millions of Big Macs every single day. Your 500 t-shirts ain't doing shit. shit.
Not exactly. You got to think to yourself like, look, how can I do something cool that McDonald's hasn't done? So in our case, there were no other streetwear collabs. It's like we've done like collaborations and all this different marketing. I don't know if you guys ever remember, but back in I'd say like from 2020 to 2022 or 23, we had a t-shirt and Zoomies with Hunter Hunter, and it was like a Kilo box logo. We sold over 1 million pieces of that one SKU. Just because like it was so new, and
Zoomies never had that audience.
Zoomies never had that audience, and it was like during the pandemic when anime was getting popular and people were getting more open to it. It just was like a different experience. When a licensor sees that, they're like, oh damn! Like not only do you take good care of our license, but it's like it looks good on a spreadsheet. They can put the fact that we did a music festival on their like deck, and their corporate partners are happy. So you got to think like, how are you providing them value? Y'all all want matcha? Yeah. All right.
So what are you doing? You're
supposed to pat it out. Yeah, you're supposed to sift it. You're supposed to pat it out to get it to like a consistency. I'm gonna make a lot because we got 3 of us.
So essentially, you think if you went to licensing now, you'd be juiced up? Like all the anime companies are coming to you?
Honestly, I don't even go to Licensing Expo anymore.
They come to you now?
Yeah, we just email. What people don't understand also too, and this is for all my people who make bootleg anime brands out there, it's like if you make bootleg stuff, there's nothing wrong with that. I think there's a lot of money in it, and I honestly discourage licensing from a lot of people because it is very expensive and it is very creatively limiting. But I'll say like this, if you get a cease and desist, a lot of these people work at the same exact companies. So it's like there's a person who might work at Hello Kitty that moves over to Sega, that moves over to Bandai, and it's like once you get kind of like blacklisted from a space, that shit low-key sticks forever. And a lot of these people pay attention to it. People think like blocking a main page is how they get taken down or they prevent that from getting taken out. It really isn't that. These companies have agencies that check for stuff. TikTok Shop has its own internal regulations. Like once you get in that list of them seeing that it's out there, they'll tell you no, and they'll never work with you. Like I said, I think the only benefit for licensing really is like if you're not going to get into wholesale or retail, or you're not like running Instagram ads or have an expectation to sell a ton of money, I'd say everybody should just bootleg it, honestly, because you rather make a little bit and not sell. Like, bro, it's like if I don't have to give up a percentage to somebody else, you know how much more money I'd have?
Yeah.
Than like paying licensing, but on that same end, it's like I wouldn't be able to sell as much if I was. You know what I'm saying?
Because they're gonna come after you.
Exactly.
How much money do you think you've paid to these licensing companies?
Bro, don't even ask me that, bro.
Hundreds of thousands, 200s of thousands?
Bro, I've paid millions of dollars to licensing, bro.
That's crazy.
Literal millions of dollars.
How much do you think you profited yourself off of them?
I can't tell you that. I'm not sharing that.
I mean, he's living in a penthouse in New York City, so you do the math.
Hey, I got a house in LA too, shit, and I bought my mama's house before I turned 23, so shit. Let me put this. I really should get hot water, but I don't got hot water, so we're gonna just do a little hot water here.
We're doing quick matcha, guys. Quick matcha.
No, it's not gonna be quick. It ain't gonna be quick. It's just like usually you're supposed to like boil the water. We ain't gonna do all that right now.
Do you think brand owners today have to have a personal brand, or do you think they could hide behind their brand?
I think that brand owners should have a personal brand, absolutely. I think the last good person that could hide behind their brand was Zach. And I think even Zach from FTP does a good job of having a personal brand. That mystique and that like mysteriousness, it is his personal brand. I mean, fun fact, me and that nigga went to high school together and both was running brands at the same exact time. So it's like full circle. But now people want to connect with people a lot more on an emotional basis. Consumers have choice now. So I think that the more you can lean into the fact that you are or you have a personal brand makes you a lot more relatable. For me, that's one thing I took away from Virgil. I liked about him so much. It's like he was a DJ. He did creative direction. He had Off-White. He was like doing projects with other people. He was doing one-offs. He was so multifaceted, and you only saw that all that stuff was possible because he had a personal brand and showed people like, look, I can do all of this as Virgil Abloh. I'm not just the owner of Off-White. I'm not just the guy who made Pyrex. I'm not just the guy who was working with Kanye. Having that brand literally showed people like me, like little black kid, like, damn, a guy like him can do it, so can I. Or like a kid that's in Africa, it's like, oh, a guy like him could do that. I could be a DJ. I could do all these different things just because like this guy who was an example and representative of culture could do that. So yes, you should have a personal brand. If you don't, you're shooting yourself in the foot, bro.
What's the next step? What do we do with this matcha now?
So this matcha is like done. So what I'm about to do right now is get 4 cups. I'm gonna get some strawberries. I'm gonna muddle all them. I really should put it on the stove and like make some simple syrup out of it, but I'm not gonna do that right now.
We'll do it quick. We'll do it the quick way. Yeah.
But I'm gonna muddle all this.
What advice do you have for somebody to like working with factories with China?
I think that if you're serious, you should absolutely 100% go out there and meet them. In any case of business, whether it's in China, whether it's in LA, it's important to make a face-to-face relationship with the people that you're working with because it's not just a business relationship, it's a relationship overall. And then 2, really immerse yourself in the culture. I think one thing about China that people don't, I use maple syrup as a sweetener, just so you know, FYI, it's very good though. It reminds me of like, you ever seen Elf? the movie.
Yeah.
And how he puts like the maple syrup in his
all
coffee,
of
and
it,
he's like, what are you doing? But so like, I think it's definitely important for people to go and make those face-to-face relationships, because one, it demonstrates how serious you are. But outside of that too, I think it's important to explore. If you are trying to work in China, the best thing I can tell anybody to do is go to Canton Fair, bro, and spend like 2 or 3 weeks leading up to Canton Fair and after Canton Fair, because it's really important to go there, one, see the manufacturers, see what they got going on, but then you also in the same end can go visit the factory, see what they do as far as work. You can see if it's a sweatshop or not. To be honest with you, I think I hate about China too, from
They're
American
all sweatshops.
No, they're not. So they're not all sweatshops at all. It's like, bro, China is so nice and so technologically advanced. I feel like the American like stereotype is that China has sweatshops, but bro, that shit is not true. Now there are some factories that are shitty for sure, but there are some factories that are like super nice, great brand owners. The team is like a family. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. All right, we're muddling the strawberry. Now we're gonna put the strawberry in the drinks, right?
Yeah, we're gonna put the strawberry in the drinks first, and then we're gonna put the oat milk in there, then we're gonna put the ice, and we're gonna put the matcha on top.
I feel like every clothing brand owner wants to know, like, what is the best blanks? What is your favorite blank to use?
I'll say who had my back during the pandemic for a long ass time was Demir, bro. If it wasn't for T-Style, bro, I don't think Hypland would be what it was. Like through in them Zoomies days in the pandemic, before like LA Apparel really started to have like a hold on the industry, Demir had my back through literally.
What did he
everything.
do? Like,
he just was so open to working, because if I'm not mistaken, I think T-Style had launched, and it was just like he was working with like Boulevard Supply and all these different things, and he's like, look, we can make you a custom blank, we can have these things in this fit. And what I liked most about Demir was that he really listens to his customers and like their feedback, and like literally tries his best to make the best product possible based around like what people are asking for, and the people who are literally paying his bills and buying his stuff. So I don't know, for me, best blanket experience I've ever had was working with Demir, honestly.
shout out T-Style, shout out Demir. All right, guys, we're finishing up the matcha.
Sorry, it's not as pretty as it was on Instagram.
You know, he's doing a whole interview while doing the matcha. So all you guys in the comments, don't be fucking going crazy, all right? And we haven't tasted it yet, so relax. Everybody in the comments, relax. Do you think Virgil would be proud of you right now?
I definitely think so, honestly. I think about that shit all the time, I'm not gonna lie. R.I.P., good mastermind. I feel like he really had like a good foresight for like brands and just like creative process. You think about it, it's like he was like a mentor to Clint also too, and like Cortez is huge. He's a mentor to a lot of different brands. I feel like people, like now I've been seeing a lot of comments where people are like, oh, Virgil was a scam artist and blah, 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 or just like people took his like 5% rule and turned it into what?
And they
into
just steal it.
It was. It's like,
Yeah.
It's just a stealing, but that was never his thought process. I think Virgil's main thing was like, look, like we don't have to reinvent the wheel. We're not changing anything. Still a t-shirt. What I love most about Virgil is, one, he opened up a lot of doors and set himself as an example to a lot of people in this fashion space. Two, he also really had a good foresight for a bunch of different brands to say, hey, look, like I know this is going to be successful. I see the community aspect, and was really like a great connector of people rather than just like product.
Yeah, we also wouldn't have all these brands. We wouldn't have Hypland. We wouldn't have Superline if it wasn't for Virgil. So
Thanks.
rest in peace to go.
My hands are clean.
You're good.
Y'all be looking at my glass straws, bro.
This man got glass straws, no plastic straws, no paper straws. Fuck the paper straws.
No paper, no nothing. Look, there we go. Bing bong. Look at how elegant this looks, bro.
Before I sip this, last question. If there was another 18-year-old kid, right, in the same situation that Virgil was mentoring you, what's one advice you would give him?
Find your lane, because I think that once you find a lane that you're actually like passionate about or something that you really love, it'll make it easier to be a part of the brand journey. There's a lot of ups and downs and a lot of things that you spend your money on. It gets very expensive, and you have a lot of losses when you run a brand, no matter what people glorify on the internet. So I think if you find what you love, it'll make it easier to like endure those losses and continue to do something. At the end of the day, if you love clothes or you love anything, regardless if it's entrepreneurship or wherever you end up doing, you gotta love what you're doing, because the nights when they're long, that love is what's gonna really motivate you and keep you inspired, not the money. If you're doing something for the money, stop doing it, because money, you'll make less money doing it for the money, to be honest with you. And this is my two cents also too. If I can say anything outside of finding your lane, is to be someone original, bro. I think that the state of clothing right now is so sad, bro. I think there are a lot of people who do cool things, but I think there are a lot of people who are just stealing and replicating the same shit over and over and over again. I think consumers have to do a better job of holding brands accountable and saying, we don't want this garbage shit that everybody else is doing. Back in the day when I grew up in streetwear, people had options, and they would tell you on Nike Talk that shit was garbage. Now it's like, bro, If some shit is garbage, there's some kid in Kentucky that saw your shit on ads that doesn't know better, that is like, I'm gonna buy this because it looks cool, and really that shit is trash also too. But there's nobody holding it accountable. So if you're a consumer out there, bro, one, be original. But two, if you have a brand that's making some trash shit, tell them it's trash. Bro, people tell us our shit is trash sometimes. You know what? Even though I don't always listen to the naysayers and negativity, there's some truth in it, and it makes you get better and do better things, because people, regardless if they're creative or not, have some type of validity in their comments.
All right, guys, I might be guilty of that. I'm gonna go home, drink this matcha, and reflect. Cheers.
Hey, look, we need the taste test.
It's good.
Is it actually?
Yeah, I don't really drink matcha, but it feels very matcha-y.
All right, somebody in the behind the scenes who drinks matcha, tell me if it's good or not.
Sam drinks matcha. It's good. I like it. It's not too sweet.
That shit's good.
Yeah. Here you go. This is yours too.
Cheers.
We'll do a cheers to the video.
Behind the brand. You know what we stay giving y'all? Free game.
Free game.